So, here we are in the faded forest. It doesn't look too bad, but everything just looks really bright and kind of flat. There's not really a lot of immersion, and it doesn't feel like we're in a cave. Sure, all of these extra parallax layers and the background and details help a little bit, but if I've learned anything from playing a bunch of video games, it's that caves are usually pretty dark, and you should be able to light it up somehow, maybe by holding a torch. But suddenly, if we add lighting to the game, everything changes. The color palette pops out more. The player feels more like the center of the game, and the objects in the world actually feel like they're in a cave. It creates an ambience that leads to immersion, and in my opinion, it's one of the most important details of Earthward, and it's way less complicated than you think. So, how'd I do it? For those of you who don't know, my preferred game engine is GameMaker, and it works really well for making the kind of games that I actually enjoy playing, which is all of those pixel art games, those RPGs, and those platformers. But there's one thing that you can make in GameMaker that is incredibly awesome and very versatile, and that thing is called a surface. A surface is like a piece of paper that you can overlay onto the screen, and you can change the way that colors are drawn and the way that colors blend together. So what this means is you could essentially have two pieces of paper, or two kind of visuals or layers of lighting on your game. The first one being the actual game itself, where all the textures and visuals are drawn onto, and then another one where all of the lighting can be drawn onto. And so once I'm done doing all of the post-processing, all of the lighting, I can just put all of that on another surface, and then I can just overlay that surface onto the existing one, and that creates this really, really nice effect of lighting. And it also makes it feel like there's layers to the game, instead of there just being kind of this blank black lighting, or like most games have, where it's just kind of dark and then there's a white light. This allows me to create colored and dynamic lighting, and this is where it gets even better. Because every object that has a light in this game inherits code from a parent object, this means I can actually apply a shader to every single light that is drawn. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because the other day when I was trying to make this shader for a nice water ripple effect, I accidentally made this thing that kind of rippled a sprite in a very smooth way, in a very gradient way. And in my head I was like, wait, what if I tried just applying this to the lights in my game and just see what happens? And so I used that same exact shader. It kind of gave it this really nice ambient effect, which works really well, especially for the fire effects on the torch and for the campfire. It makes it feel like there's some actual animation in the lights. It really helps fix a problem that a lot of other games have, which is a lack of motion when there's nothing going on. When the player is just standing still, what is going on in the game? Is there some kind of background animation? Is there some like ambient particles or something like that? Is there an idle animation? Stuff like that. And now when you stand still and look at the lights, it just feels kind of mesmerizing. But like I said, it is an incredibly simple thing to do. It's just me doing some cosine functions on the position and color of the pixels, and then changing those colors to kind of give it this ripply texture. And speaking of textures, all of the lights that are being drawn are actually being drawn using a glow mask. And if you don't know what a glow mask is essentially just an actual pre-baked image, which means I can have more intense lights on some objects, or maybe a different style of light on another object. A fantastic example of this is on one of my developer weapons, which, yes, I added as a reference to Terraria, but when I swing the enchanted sword and it shoots a beam, it actually uses its own custom glow mask, which is a more directional and intense beam of light. And by now you've also probably noticed that there is some flickering to the lights, which is just me changing the scale of the light that's being drawn using a sine wave. Oh, and if you look a little bit more closely, you'll see that in the enchanted sword light, you can see the lights are actually rotating. So there is a boolean that I have in my parent object that I can set to true for my other objects that will make the light that's being drawn over it actually rotate at a specific speed, which I can also set for each individual object. It's incredibly simple, but it's incredibly effective. And I feel like that is what makes a lighting engine good. It's something that by itself is just simple, but still has the ability to be more refined. And so if we go into the game and we start turning on and off all of these different lighting layers, you'll notice how big of a difference it makes in every single area. There's not a single place in the game that does not look better without the lighting. But yeah, that's how I do my lighting. Huge thank you to all of my patrons and people who support me over in Discord. I've got a lot more content coming now that it's winter break. I've done a lot of work on Earthward over the past few months, and I'm really excited to share the progress with you guys. I know I've been a little bit silent on this YouTube channel lately, but hopefully now with some more time on my hands, that's going to change. If you guys want to keep track of Earthward and how close I am to completing the game, I've actually tried coding a website. This is the first time I've tried coding a website from scratch, so just forgive me if there are any errors in it. But you can go ahead and go to earthwardprogress.com and you can check out all of the different development progress bars, as well as some of the about pages for the different phases, because that's how I'm splitting the development up into. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next devlog.